Hello, my name is Subarna Khatka. I'm here to give a presentation for one of my assessment of the curriculum studies in early childhood, and the topic is critically evaluating the program of student learning from the story time to the nap time transition period. So the early years learning framework places a strong emphasis on the evaluation and critical reflection, which are also crucial parts of the planning cycle. A learning exercise from the connection with practice, discovering story time, transition to nap time video scenario is critically assessed in this report. So the children's transition from story to rest routines, a highly rational sensory and communication rich time of the day is the main focus of the experience. So in this reflection, we are going to talk about the various topics. So the first one is children's engagement and learning, methods of demonstrating learning outcomes, teaching strategies, cultural, linguistic, and development considerations, assessment of whether learning objectives were met, possibilities for extension, implications for professional learning and collaboration. So I use the pedagogy assessment for learning and critical reflection principles throughout this review to re-evaluate what went well, what may be improved, and how well the experience fits into the continuous planning cycle. So the first one is the children's reflection. So in this, we did the children's utilize reflective language and behavior to demonstrate their understanding of the process and their participation in the learning, even though the scenario focuses on transition routine. Children's voices, both verbal and non-verbal, and the other information for evaluation according to ELF version 2. So the first one is the verbal reflection for children. So the children showed awareness of the story, made predictions, sought clarifications, and made personal connection during the story time. And the several kids demonstrated early metacognitive thinking by pointing out their favorite passage in the narrative or making comments about the illustration. A child's response, like I like when the bear goes to sleep, for instance, demonstrated their comprehension of the story and the connected to its change they were going to make. And the second one is the non-verbal. So as they get ready for the rest time, the other kids reflected by pointing, imitating character behaviors, approaching the teacher, or inhaling deeply. These actions showed how the kids identified well-known soothing techniques and comprehended the order of the routine. And the third one is the cultural reflection. So it's like the linguistic and cultural reflection. So multilingual children noted how their families read books at the home or made references to vocabulary from their own tongues. This is in line with the outcome 1.3, which values cultural learning and states that children develop knowledge and confident self identities. So the children engagement. So it shows how the children are engaged with the learning. So the first one is can be through the storytelling engagement. Throughout the story, kids were focused, inquisitive, and receptive. They engaged in repeating words like questions, made predictions about endings, and paid great attention to the graphics. This shows interest in linguistic patterns, narrative structures, and the literacy principles. The second one is sensory or emotional engagement. So the children were able to control themselves because of the teacher's soothing voice, the environment's predictability, and the gentle lightning. Children employed techniques associated with emotional wellness, such as deep breathing or cuddling or soft toys. And the third one is the social engagement. So the children engage with their peers, exchanging cushions, whispering ideas, and assisting one another in getting ready for sleep. This is in line with the outcome 2.1, which states that children develop a sense of belonging to the groups and communities. And the fourth one is engagement through autonomy. So engagement through autonomy means a number of kids carried out the routine on their own, gathering blankets, selecting a peaceful area, and getting ready to sleep. Strong learning dispositions such as independence and responsibility are demonstrated by this. So in this, we will explain about what did the children learn. So the language and literacy learning. So the youngsters expand their vocabulary, experimented with the phrase construction, and connected spoken language to the story visuals. So they demonstrated their ability to comprehend the story and make predictions and identify word sounds. Children who are learning English or have a variety of learning challenges benefited greatly from the story repeated phrase and structure, which allowed them to follow along with their marriage material and engage with the confidence. So the second one is the emotional regulation. So the children employed self calming strategies to assist control their emotions, as such as deep breathing, quiet speech, and stillness. These actions promote their general well-being and foster resilience, which is consistent with outcome 3.1, which emphasizes the significance of early childhood of development of appropriate emotional regulating skills. The third one is routine sequencing. So the children practice following a well-known routine, which include gathering their bedding, packing up, listening to story, and getting ready for bed. Their memory, organizational abilities, and the sense of competence were all strengthened by this consistent pattern, which supported the growth of executive functioning and boosted their self-assurance in handling daily transitions on their own. The last one is the social learning. So the children who waited their turns, negotiated space, and offered help to peers. These reflects developed dispositions for empathy, care, and the cooperation. And the next one is the assessment of the learning. So in this we will explain the what how do we know the learning outcomes were achieved. So like for the observations, children's verbal and non-verbal reactions to the narrative, their capacity to make transition on their own, their composed demeanor as they got ready for sleep, and the ways they interacted and they encouraged one another during the routine were all recorded by educator observations and anecdotal notes. And the conversations and conversations. So the children's reflection and storytelling participation directly linked to the outcomes. So for the outcome one is identity, second one is the self community, the third one is well-being, learning, and the fifth one is communication. So what we can see is from the outcome one, the children expressed and preferences linked story to family experiences and using home language words. The outcome to community means the children collaborated, supported peers, followed group interactions. And the well-being is demonstration of the self-regulation, calm body, and use breathing strategies. And the fourth one, learning, is like predicted story events, problem solving, responding to educators' questions. And so extended learning. So in this one we will explain the what extra they learn from this one. So the transition experience provided us useful foundation for the further education, and it could be expanded upon in number of significant ways. Say the incorporating home language, copy of the book, or family recording of the narrative, encouraging children to create the new endings or draw favorite scenes, and offering a story basket with times to help recounting, all ways to enhance literacy. These techniques improve understanding, creativity, and cross-cultural understanding. And also creating a peaceful area with the sensory aids like the mindfulness and yoga, dramatic play, and the by creating a beer cave or nighttime routine area, children can engage in more dramatic play while multilingual books that represent the children many linguistic backgrounds and encouraging families to share learning. And the other one is additional resources. So this means like what other additional resources we could have added so that it will be helpful for the children to learn more. So a number of other resources could improve the educational process. So let's say puppets, felt figures, sequencing cards, and sensory probes are examples of story related items that can improve comprehension and increase participating. Improvements to surrounding such as softer lighting, bilingual signage, peaceful breathing, images, quiet music, or cultural lullabies all contribute to the creation of tranquil environment. Dual language books, social outlining, the rest, time pattern, and visual calendars for neurodiverse kids guarantee that every children feel supported, understood, and capable of participation with the confidence. Achievements of the outcomes. So it's like so it explains about where the outcomes achieved and how can we know about whether they are achieved or not. So the intention to learn. So the goals were to encourage children to participate in literacy experiences, encourage social collaboration, promote peaceful transition and emotional management, support children's feeling of cultural identity and belonging. And the proof of accomplishment. So the sensitive, the setting was secure, predictable, and emotionally responsive. Children interacted with the story, anticipated events through the illustrations. Children transitioned calmly and independently. Children supported peers and communicated effectively. Children make reference to home language and family routines. As a result, the learning objectives were met. This assertion is supported by ongoing evidence and educational reflection. So the regulation and EYLF. So we explained about the few of the regulations. So the regulation 155, it is the interaction with the children. So in this, the educator engages respectfully, calmly, and responsibly. Regulation 168, which is the education and care program, the experience found part of the planned documented program including transitions. Uh, Regulation 74, it is documenting children experiences. So here the observations were collected to evaluate the learning. Regulation 81, sleep and rest. So the safe sleep practices were followed with children's comfort and well-being prioritized. So EYLF version 2 principles. So the one is the secure, respectful, and reciprocal relationships, partnership with the families, respect for diversity, a high expectation and equity, ongoing learning and reflective practice. And there were also the EYLF practices which were followed. So the responsive teaching, learning through play, integrated learning and transitions, assessment for learning, sustainability of well-being practices. So the teaching strategies and reflection. So there were a few advantages, disadvantages, and there were a few areas of development. So the strengths can be the soothing voice and the coach demeanor, assisted in controlling kids, critical thinking, which was encouraged by open-end questions, well-being was enhanced by modeling through breathing practices, developmental differences were supported by routines and visual cues, possibilities for independence foster self-assurance and identity. And the few areas for development were giving kids additional chances to take the lead in storytelling, to promote diversity, add additional literature for different culture, giving kids who struggle with transition scenarios, and involve families in the planning process by having them share bedtime stories. Personal philosophy. So the personal philosophy means so focusing on the relationships, identity, and transitional as learning, commitment to the reflective, culturally responsive practice. So few improvements. So few improvements which can be done are what I will do differently next time is integrate more multimodal literacy tools, provide scaffolds, extend children learning roles, and what worked well. So the calm educator presence, predictable structure, children's active participation. So the future planning cycles could be like observation, analysis, intentional planning, implementation, critical reflection. So what we can conclude is that the transition was as meaningful for learning moments and the strong alignment with the EYLF outcomes from 1 to 5 and ongoing reflections strengthens teaching practices. Thank you so much for listening.